All right, we're going to get started on our reverse painting today. And what we're going to do, first thing, is you need to create a symmetrical leaf design to be able to trace leaves where you want them to go. So there are 3x5 index cards by the board, or if you have some that you use for classes, you can absolutely use that. You can use other paper too, but these are a good weight that you can trace around. And you can do leaves of different shapes and difficulties and be able to interchange things so that you have some interesting designs. If you wanted to make it look like fall leaves, you absolutely could. So first thing, I'm going to fold this lengthwise down the center. And if it's not perfect, you don't have to worry about it. If you don't have your pencil out and you don't have that to go, that's okay too. What I usually do for these complex leaves is I start up at the top and I make a little rainbow on the fold. So you see that is on the fold, because if it's not on the fold, guess what? It will not be together. You'll come out in two halves and then you'll have to do another one. Another one attached there, another one attached there, and then I can cut that out. And when I cut this out, I'm gonna snip there. If you have a hard time getting into corners or cutting around corners, then cut to the corner and then come back around. So you don't have to do it all in one motion, like where you turn the scissors and come up there. That is probably going to be a giant pain in your butt. So come around, cut to the corner like that. And this one obviously is a little more difficult. I'm going to snip that part off, and then I'll see if I can get up to this point and snip back to that point. So it makes it a lot easier to cut things out when you cut to the corner, and don't try to turn. You just go in and then when you're able to do it, then you'll be able to cut it out a little bit easier. So there's my compound leaf. I like the shape of that one. For the serrated edge leaf, and I line up the corners and then flatten. So you bring this out, and then you can just draw little V shapes around the edge. And then when you cut it, just cut this edge, and then you can cut out the V's later. So I've got my template cut out. I'm gonna start on the reverse painting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to trace one first. So I like to go on an angle. And you can do this very lightly. Does it have to be perfect? No, nothing's ever perfect. So why, do your best, okay? That's all you can do. Does it have to be perfect? No, nothing's ever perfect. But can you do a good job and try your best and try to learn something at the same time? Yes. Don't just do the least. Okay? So that gives me my first one. Now, there's an L, there's an M, there's a D. That stands for light, medium, dark. So you're also going to have one extra one that's going to be your background color. And it can be lighter than your other ones. So make sure you have your palette, get your watercolor, spritz a little bit, and you're going to mix up a wash. And in fact, I'm gonna start with a little quarter-size puddle in this corner. I'm gonna start with a quarter-size puddle in that corner, and this corner, and this corner. You need to leave enough room that you can have a shade in each corner. So I'm gonna mix my colors with this brush. I also have gotten a couple of round brushes because I find that it is easier to go around my things with a round brush. So this is a combination of green and violet to get that sort of blue-green effect. I think I'm going to go with warm colors this time. So I'm gonna start with a yellow for my background color. And the background color, notice I'm mixing the wash in here. Okay, I'm going to cover the whole thing with my background color. And I can take this over to the hair dryer and dry it. Or while I'm mixing up my other colors, I'm going to let it dry. I'm dragging my color across the entire thing so that I've got a nice solid background color. Don't worry about going outside of the line of your space because we're going to cut it out and put it into your sketchbook later. All right, so there's a nice even wash of my background color. Now, I'm gonna mix up the dark color. And again, I'm doing a wash that is gonna be a warm color. So I'm gonna start with some orange. Got a little clump in there from some direction. I can pull that out of there. It's probably paper from someone's thing. Try not to scrub at your paper because it will peel off and then leave little like weird niblets. Okay, so I'm mixing up my dark tone first. I'm gonna do a little color swatch over here. Any of this extra paper you can use for color swatching. I'm actually gonna add some of this red violet because I want to tone it down a little bit. And even though the red violet is kind of, it can go either way. Ooh, I like that. I think that's gonna be good. Yeah. I'm gonna add a little more paint to this. And again, I can wipe off these. I'm not really washing off my brush in between, but I'm gonna wipe that down with a wet towel later. I'm gonna grab a little bit of orange here. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a puddle of really pigmented paint. So this is going to be my darkest value. You can kind of see how dark that value is. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to add that dark value where it says D for dark. I should have put my background color in there. There we go. Now, I have a little bit of paint left on this that I'm going to go over here. This is going to be my medium tone. I'm going to add a couple of... That's going to be good. Okay, so maybe a little bit more. So this is going to be my medium tone. Okay, then from my medium tone, I'm gonna go over to this last bubble here. I'm gonna take a few things of the medium tone, and then this is going to be my light tone. You see the difference. So my paper is not fully dry as yet. And I do have paper towel here that I could use to blot it. And I think, I don't think I'm, maybe. So if you take some paper towel, you can blot your excess off. It's still pretty damp. I am going to put the hairdryer on this for a second. So the reason why this is a reverse painting is that we are starting with the lightest and then we are going around this picture. I am going to launch. I'm putting those papers on top of this. Sorry, there we go. Little hair dryer. Try not to blow your stuff away. There are 2 hair dryers. You can kind of see what the difference between that light, medium, and dark is when I dry that. Blowing in my face. Turn off. Ah, there we go. So now, my brush has the lightest color on it. I'm gonna go in there, and I don't love this square brush for going around my leaves, but it is good for going in the background. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do all this background area over here with the square brush. And notice that I'm not painting the actual leaf. Okay, I am painting around the leaf. That is why this is a reverse painting, because normally people are used to painting on the actual thing that they are painting. We are painting around it carefully. A little shaky. It's okay. I would probably recommend taking an eraser and just lightening those pencil marks a little bit prior. I've got a puddle over here, so I'm not even going back to my palette. I'm just, or I should say my tray that I'm mixing. Do not go from your paint palette directly to your paper. It will mess you up. That's why we mix it on the tray. So I'm using the point of the brush to get down in those corners, just like with the scissors. Like, if you do the corners first and kind of work your way out, it makes your life easier. Use just the tip of the brush. It makes it easier. Okay, so I've got this first leaf painted around. Okay, I'm gonna try to suck up some of that. And again, if you wanted to blot it a little bit, you could. Sometimes that gives you a little variation in your surface. But I do want this to be completely dry before I do this next tracing, because guess what? If you try to trace your leaf on wet paper, it may tear it. So this is the point where you're deciding if you want to do all one type of leaf, or if you want to trade leaves with your friends. Like, say for example, you want an oak leaf or something in here. You can do that, like, or a maple leaf or something. I'm gonna stick with my one shape. I'm going to go across it this way, I think, on a different angle. I'm going to lightly trace this. Again, if you've got some, also, I'm not tracing through the yellow. I'm tracing around it. So do not trace the leaf over the other one. You go around it, because this is going to appear like it's behind it or underneath it. And if you wanted to, I'm gonna take this stem here and I'm gonna go off this way with it. I'm gonna add a little extra stem. So now I've got my second leaf. So now I'm gonna take my medium tone and I'm going to paint around everything leaf-wise with medium, and I'm painting around this too. So this section in here, This is where you have to be careful when you're up in these little tiny areas. And watch which parts are leaves and which are not. So I'm going in with my medium tone now. I think I want to make this middle a little bit narrower. I just don't like how chonky that part is. You could make little like changes. So this is medium tone now. And again, I'm not painting the actual leaf, I'm painting around the leaves. And if you do get, like I just did with this one, if you do accidentally go into the leaf or like over your line, just don't go too far. Like, be careful when you're up against it, and then you can go crazy out here. So like, if you're someone who likes to get things done fast, there's a time and a place. So up against the leaf, don't try to go fast. Go slow and even. Get in the corners gently so that you've got that space. And then after you get in that space, then go crazy out here, okay? Or get your big brush and fill that in real quick. Like, you have to learn how to control your brush. And if you are impatient, like I am sometimes, sometimes you want to go fast, but you've got to realize, like, up against something, go slow. Up against something, go slow. Up against something, go slow. Even though it might be slightly painful, then out here, go fast. Learn where to go fast. Just like driving a car or anything else, like, you gotta follow the rules so that you don't make terrible mistakes. Same thing's true with art. So up close, go slow. Like you're in a school zone driving a car. Up close, go slow. I'm gonna make this stem less chonky right there too. Just a little bit. Up close, go slow. And then now out here, also you'll notice I go in circles. So if I'm using this, I'm also not scrubbing it like a mop, okay? I don't need to mop this. All right, so now I've got that next layer in. I'm gonna use the hairdryer, but again, I think I'm gonna blot it first. So I'm flipping my paper towel over so that it's not on the other one. There, I've blotted. The only reason why I blot it is because sometimes the hairdryer will blow the paint. Also, make sure you write your name and your period on your paper. I did not, because guess what? I'm all of them. So now, last one, or last multiple. So I'm gonna take this one here. No, I think I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna go the opposite direction. Yeah, I like that. Think about what you're doing before you do it. It's important in life and in your artwork. And again, like the chonky stem, I'm probably gonna pare it down a little bit with my last color. Okay, there's that one. And I think I'm gonna do maybe a little over here. The more you add in this step, the less of that last color you have to add, by the way. but you do have to remember where your stuff is. Okay, so now I go in with my last dark color. So this part right here and this part right here, and it went off the page, but I forgot to trace that part, so now I've got to carefully fill that in. And this is my darkest tone. It can be really meditative to do this, whether you know what that is or not. I just made my stem less chonky. I like it when they're really thin and like kind of looks like they're delicate. So you can see over there my dark tone getting in there. Then I'm gonna go big giant head is probably on top of this. Hold on. Yes. Okay, so right here too. This might be a spot for the little tiny brush. I do have little tiny brushes available. Not everyone needs them, and I do hand them out under special circumstances because little brushes get destroyed very easily, and we don't have infinite amount of money. By the way, if your hand feels like it's getting shaky, there's nothing that says you can't take a break. My hand is in fact getting shaky, but I am pushing through this because I want you to be able to see what it is like when it's done. But I've got a little carpal tunnel going on, so sometimes it makes things difficult. Okay, I can't remember. How did I do this? Oh, it was right there. Yes, and then I did that other one there. Okay. Sometimes you have to remember what you were doing. You gotta think about it. Think before you do things. And also, if you have a moment where you don't think before you do things and you're like, oh, that isn't right, that's an opportunity for you to figure out how to fix it. There are plenty of times in this life where things happen and you're like, oh, that is not what I wanted to happen. But you got to figure out how to fix it. So if you accidentally painted in this leaf, maybe I would come up with a darker shade just to put over here, and I would kind of go around that like it was my next layer and get that to blend in another way. Or just, again, make it part of the background. This is your piece of artwork. You are choosing your color palette. That's what this color palette is. Like, you're choosing what you're mixing together. And again, if you mix something up and you've tested it over here and you don't like it, don't use it. Pick something else. If you get started and you're like, oh, that's not what I hoped it would be, pick something else. You're making your creative decisions. if you're not happy with it, see if it'll work. Like, see if you can get it to work and problem solve. But again, if it doesn't, it's not like a failure on your part. It just means maybe you want to make a different choice. Did I just use the medium? I think I did. See, I'm focusing on this and talking and not what I'm doing. And again, you might notice that with the point of this brush, I'm kind of going down in to the point first, like between the leaves, the real little parts. And again, I'm making this stem a little bit more delicate just because I like it that way. You don't necessarily have to. Don't go back to the palette. It's okay to remind yourself. Sometimes I do too. You just witnessed that. All right, so that gives me now the background color, or I should say the foreground color, because now it appears to be the closest to you. Your light, your medium, and your dark tone around the edges. If you wanted to, you could now take this and you could variegate that background. There's nothing, again, nothing that says that you can't go in and kind of like dab some tones out here, because that'll be like this is that red violet. Again, don't go directly onto here. Get yourself some in that blending area. Maybe I want to add a little bit of violet in here to like pick up shadows. I can also, there's those different techniques where you can like lift it by blotting it. So I can blot some of that violet off of there, or I can move it a little bit. I don't really like that edge that I got because my hand's getting shaky. I got a little carpal tunnel going on, so sometimes that makes it a little difficult. But you can grab some of the like first colors and you can put those in there. So it's really up to you. Once you get that like layering of the reverse colors done, if you wanted to do some variegated wash in areas, or you wanted to like go in a little bit, you can. It adds a lot of texture. Kind of makes me think of like fresh leaves falling off the trees, like now that it's just sort of becoming fall, where the brightly colored leaves are falling and kind of gathering on the ground. It makes me think of that. Hopefully we'll get some more fall-like weather and we can enjoy it. Right now it's going to be 85 degrees and it's crazy. That is not the weather that I did not really want to do that, but we're gonna go in and we're gonna put that in there and make it consistent. It's like a little shadowy edge. Kind of like it actually. Let me see. I'm just gonna be consistent and kind of add a little to the edges there. I do like that. So again, what you do after that last layer is up to you. I'm variegating that last one just by adding some little bits in there.